Okay, this video is the George Washington story taken out of the history books, and I just want you to hear it because it shows you like a sense of national identity and the way history is taught that's informative about how it should be taught. So first I just want to show you a little bit about the history of ancient Rome because it's going to relate to President GW. Okay, so this is Scipio Africanus, the defeater of Hannibal. They finally figured out how to defeat Hannibal, and now he is victorious. And basically, after they've conquered, they sometimes take advantage of the maidens in these places, and they bring the beautiful maiden to them, and her fiance is still alive, and Scipio Africanus is asked to have mercy and let her return to her fiance husband, and he says, yes, you may go back to your husband. So he spares her, and he did other good things like that. He spared other people to try to make friendship with the conquered people in some ways. And so what I'm trying to show you, this is an example of Rome trying to show off how noble it was, how good it was. It was, brave and successful in battle, but then noble afterwards in ruling, with the idea that the conquered people were almost lucky to be conquered by such noble people as the Romans. I'm just showing you this because this is what would be taught to all the young Roman guys, that this is how you should behave. Okay, now here's the famous story of Mucius. Okay, Mucius was a Roman soldier, a young guy, and he had broken into the Etruscan camp with Lars Porsena, the king of the Etruscans, and he had, killed a man who he thought was Lars Porsena, the leader, but it was merely one of the high-ranking officers, okay? And then they were getting ready to decide, how to execute him, and they were torturing him. He put his hand over the fire, and he said, I don't care what you do to me, and if you get rid of me, there'll be another guy like me coming tomorrow, because we in Rome are fierce and we will defend our Roman city. And the whole point of it was this idea of this noble masculinity, brave, not willing to risk his life for the noble cause of Rome, okay? And that made Lars Porsena hesitate and be afraid to come after Rome, was the story how it goes. And of course, this is taught to all the young men of Rome, that you should be brave like Mucius. His name became Lefty after he'd burned his right arm. And also his family took on that name, Scaevola, and it became very famous in Rome as a very noble, wealthy, prestigious family. So this idea of the noble Romans, and you're going back now to the idea of the Roman Republic. Rome existed for about 1,500 years, ancient Rome. First there was the monarchy, then there was the republic, then there was the empire. And the republic was the greatest of all the phases. So anyways, this is what we taught to every young Roman guy. And there's a reason why I'm going through all this. It'll make sense in a moment. Here is Horatius at the bridge. So basically, in a conflict with the Etruscans totally outnumbered Rome. Were about to capture the city of Rome. And the only thing holding them back was getting over this bridge over the Tiber River. And they were undermanned. And what they wanted to do was disassemble the bridge so that the Etruscans could not get over it to conquer Rome. And so Horatius, the head guard at the gate over the Tiber River, he went and risked his life and fought off an advancing group of Etruscans by himself, and he was wounded multiple times, and he dived into the Tiber River, and he was safely reclaimed back to Roman soil. Okay, so that is the great story of Captain Horatius risking his life at the bridge to save Rome. Okay, so this was taught to all the young Roman boys. This was in their blood. I shall be like Captain Horatius. I shall be like Mucius. I shall be like Scipio Africanus in victory if I am victorious. Okay, so anyways, the reason I tell you that is that's what these guys read, the founding fathers of the USA. They read the stories of the ancient Romans and the ancient Greeks. Okay, and here's the classic one. I remember learning this when I was a kid about President GW. He, told the story of, I cannot tell a lie. It was I who chopped down the cherry tree. And so that was, you should be honest like the great GW, okay? Those stories are good. Those are memorable, okay? Nobody remembers the dates of all these isolated events, but they will remember those stories, and they're an important part of teaching, the noble deeds of one's ancestors. So anyways, I show you that there was a story of GW when he fought in these Indian wars, and how there, multiple horsemen had been wounded or killed and knocked off their horses or whatever, but he somehow came through it all unscathed. And he was seen as being unable to be wounded by the Indians, okay? And this was sort of the story about Providence had declared that, the USA should be founded in 1776 and all this stuff. And is it legendary? Probably is, exaggerated, but there's still something good and noble about it, and it's memorable about it, and young men should be taught this. I just want to show you a clip of Dr. Carson. He's a famous neurosurgeon, and he's talking about how this is history, how it was taught to him. And I was I'm a little younger than him, I think, so I kind of came as this stuff was fading out, but I still saw it. So anyways, I'll have the link in the description below so you can see how this was taught. I hope you find it interesting.